Careful about preserving their rich heritage, the people of Columbus have built a modern metropolis featuring a vital downtown, beautiful parks, and airy public places. It's a typical summer day in the Midwest, hot and sticky. That, however, will not deter race fans from filling up the stands hoping to see record-shattering performances from their favorite drivers. Hello, I'm Paul Page, and we're at Columbus, Ohio, at National Trail Raceway for the Budweiser Spring Nationals. Now, this is the Pontiac Trans Am of Butch Leal, and he's been kind enough to strip off the front end and the doors so we can take a real close look at this magnificent machine. Inside the cockpit, in what would be the passenger side of the car, is the MSD ignition system. It's lightning power required to fire up this high-compression engine with a ratio of 15-to-1. The transmission is the 4-speed Linco, $7,000. But for the past 20 years, this has been the standard of pro stock racing. And with the eye always on safety, the roll cage protects the driver, and the netting in the window to keep arms and hands in case of an accident. The power plant is up front. $35,000. 500 cubic inches, it develops 1,100 plus horsepower. But what really makes the Pro Stock different from the other two professional categories, Top Fuel and Funny Car, is right here. It's suspension, coil spring, and shock absorber with adjusting nut on top. Because of the weight in the front of the Pro Stock car, they have to do a great deal of adjustment on the suspension to get the power down at the starting line and then roll the car over so it's running fast at the finish. Well, they're beginning to fire up, and the action is beginning to build after already 3 days of racing. So let's get an update and go to Steve Evans.
Well, Paul, I'm proud of you. You certainly know how to pick your pro stocks. Butch Leal is the defending champion here and right from the Columbus area. But you know, this weekend I sense more interest than ever before in Top Fuel dragsters. You know, those cheap $50,000 rides you were talking about. And of course, everybody watching the head-to-head battle between Joe Amato and Dick LaHaye. You'll recall a couple of weeks ago, final round, Cajun Nationals in Louisiana. It was Dick LaHaye winning the race by inches over Joe Amato. Just yesterday, the final qualifying session, they battled for the #1 spot, and they ran identical lap time, right to the 1,000. NHRA had to go to their top speed rule to declare Dick LaHaye the pole sitter. Now, they have both gone through first round earlier today, are still in eliminations. While they were winning, some other cars really stepped up. Gary Ormsby right into the 540s to join them there. He defeated Connie Coletta. But Shirley Muldowney particularly was strong in round #1, a perfect pass over Texan Eddie Hill. Now, Darrell Gwynn defeated Don Garlits, but at great expense. He turned a $3,700 engine block into a boat anchor. He has drawn Shirley Muldowney in round #2 and maybe on the ropes just a little bit. In Funny Car, well, all the superstars are here and being paced, as you might expect, by Kenny Bernstein. He was a #1 qualifier and headed for round 2. But the most fun I've had in a long time at the end of the racetrack came in round #1 in Funny Car. A match racer we seldom ever see him, D.A. Santucci. His celebration, well, you'd have thought he won the world championship. Well, you wouldn't know it was only round 1 down here. For a guy like D.A. Santucci, who only runs a couple of races a year, when you beat a U.S. Nationals champion in round 1, big one.
Well, I had a gamble, and that's what I did, you know, and we've been running in the 90s all weekend, and this is just fantastic. I didn't expect to be this far anyway, Steve.
You know, 90s wouldn't mean a darn thing to a Kenny Bernstein, but to a guy like you that runs so conservatively, that's a great number.
Yeah, for here it is today, especially with the humidity the way it is, you know. We're going to try to do it again.
We'll be down here.
Thank you, Steve.
Already, records have fallen here in Columbus today. A record crowd, over 41,000 people, despite temperatures heading for the 90s and incredible humidity. We're now in the second round of Top Fuel as Joe Amato is ready to face Michael Brotherton.
And Paul, among the drag racing category, certainly Top Fuel, the quickest and the fastest. Often referred to as the kings of the sport, covering the standing quarter mile, 1,320 feet in under 6 seconds, and nearing 280 miles per hour. Joe Amato, Old Forge, Pennsylvania. Already this year has notched 1 victory, the NHRA Gator Nationals. His opponent is a new face on the NHRA Championship circuit, Michael Brotherton from Tulsa, Oklahoma. Brotherton got by Phil Mullins in the first round. Mullins red-lighted or foul-started, left before the Christmas tree turned green and was disqualified. But Brotherton, even on that run, ran in the 560s. So he will be a formidable opponent for Joe Amato, who is the current points leader towards a world championship.
Both cars moving up the stage now. That's Amato in the far lane. And here is Brotherton sitting in the near lane.
Amato, the last to complete the staging process, and leaving too soon is Michael Brotherton. He blazes the tires, but that doesn't matter. He red-lighted, left that starting line before the green light came on. Joe Amato will go into the semifinals with a 5:52 elapsed time.
And the red light that got Brotherton into this round is his demise as he faced Joe Amato. Joe Amato with a 5:52.259. So as action continues here in Columbus in the second round of Top Fuel. That's Dick LaHaye ready to face Frank Bradley. Now remember, LaHaye was the winner at the Cajun Nationals. Just married his new bride, Claudia, here at the track. Frank Bradley performs his burnout. In the meantime, down in the shutdown area, Steve Evans is with Joe Amato.
I would imagine that Joe Amato saw the red light on the part of Brotherton and still legged it all the way through, but Joe, it fell off a bit to a 5:52.
Well, Steve, we made some changes on the car. We felt that run we could fool around a little bit and try and get a tune-up for the next round, because every round here the cars get tougher and tougher. So we changed some parts on the car and tried to get it, to respond. But when he jumped, I saw the red light, but I still ran it through. Lane choice could be important too.
So you're confident you can go back into the 540s where you belong today?
Yeah, I think so. That the lane, maybe the air got hotter since before. We were the first car now. Maybe somebody else would run 550s too. The 552 could be low ET of that round because the air definitely got worse. But we were still fooling around a little bit.
Good observations from Joe Amato. Headed for the semis.
In the meantime, up at the starting line, this record crowd ready as we continue second round action in Top Fuel. Dick LaHaye pulling his machine back and in position. LaHaye chasing Joe Amato in the season-long points fight. He was the top qualifier with a 540.
Frank Bradley, Paul, from Napa, California, took last year off to regroup, and apparently he found some things because this car is more competitive today than it's been in about 3 years. You see Bradley inching forward. They use a handbrake to pull into those staging bays. They'll get all four of those yellow lights lit on top of the Christmas tree. Then starter Buster Couch will activate the Pro Start. First the yellow, then the green. And Dick LaHaye is off the starting line first by a big margin. Frank Bradley unable to catch up. LaHaye's crew loving it. And Dick LaHaye runs quicker than any man or woman ever has on this asphalt. 5.38 seconds, 262 miles per hour.
Perhaps a prediction of the day with that new track record. In the meantime, back in the funny car area, Kenny Bernstein's crew works on their machine as they're ready to face Don Prudhomme when round two of funny car comes up.
Dick LaHaye, what does that internal speedometer tell you that you ran on that pass?
About a 35.
How about a 38, brand new track record?
Well, thank you very much, Steve. We thought that we could run a 38 or a 37, but it felt pretty good through the middle of the racetrack, and we're just tickled to death.
You don't seem to be as concerned with the surface of the racetrack and traction as some.
Well, the first three qualifying runs we made, it smoked the tires out in the middle, and finally we made up our mind this morning what to change, and we changed the clutch, and it makes it run quicker.
The speed secrets will do it every time. Dick LaHaye goes into the semifinals, low elapsed time, track record.
So Joe Amato and Dick LaHaye move ahead, and there's more Top Fuel action coming up. To the 90s at the Budweiser Spring Nationals at National Trail Raceway. Only one problem, it's just a little bit short.
Today I'm at the tidy farm home of Herb White in Union Township, Ohio, where Herb is setting a new standard in yard decoration. Now, he's not into those cute little ceramic deers or the concrete bunnies or the funny-looking little jockey statues. Herb has got a 3-row high guardrail slashing right across his front yard. Now, it's only available in one decorator color, galvanized, but it does keep those pesky hot rodders across the street whose parachutes don't work from T-boning his house. Now, so far, Herb hasn't had any visitors because NHRA's new improved safety pit has swallowed up all who have tried, including the funny car of Steve Hodkinson. Well, Steve Hodkinson is out of the car and obviously okay. He came into the sand pit probably about 50 or 60 miles an hour. It's really more of a gravel pit than it is sand. And you can see here the digging the gravel away from the front spoiler. And this car appears to really need nothing but a good wash job. Actually, NHRA installs this railing the day before the race and removes it the day after and even resods the lawn. Now, as far as Mr. White is concerned, finally he's gotten to know enough racers and officials. He's become an actual member of the safety team. Welcome aboard. Oh, a tip to you racers, if you do get over here, don't get out of your car until Herb locks up the dog.
Steve Evans, you be careful of that dog as well. We continue with top fuel action in round 2 as Gary Ormsby now faces Gene Snow. Ormsby no longer in the Streamliner, and his opponent, the Snowman. Gene Snow, who first won the Spring Nationals in 1974 in a funny car. He faces Roseville, California's Gary Ormsby with 1 national event title to his credit.
This is the second outing for this beautiful new car of Gary Ormsby. It may be, Paul, the lightest car in top fuel racing. Everything titanium, magnesium, a lot of exotic metals here. They base the car in Indianapolis during the summertime and take a look at a lot of the 500 technology. So Gene Snow's engine does not sound good. In fact, Paul, there's some smoke coming from the exhaust headers on that engine. Gene Snow away, smoking the tires, maybe in his own oil. Gary Ormsby is long gone. Ormsby into the semis, his crew chief Lee Beard. He likes that number on the board of 548, 259 miles per hour.
So Gary Ormsby moves ahead as Gene Snow lights the tires. We look back at a faltering engine on the line. Snow picks the front end up just a bit, and immediately the tire smoke lights up. Apparently a problem with that engine that may have transferred itself down to the racetrack.
Well, Joe Amato told us that he was experimenting a little bit this round. Well, that may have cost him lane choice, because Gary Ormsby, your 548 is going to put you in the lane of your choice in the semis.
Good. My car's running pretty good. It fell off a little bit that time, but seems to be running a lot better.
You know, we talked so much last year about your Streamliner. We're sorry to not see it around. It was so pretty, but was it weight totally? Is that the problem with those kind of cars?
That was the biggest problem, Steve. We gave up 110 pounds there, and you just can't do that. This car is a lot easier to work with, and it's lighter, and it just works better.
Indeed it does. See you in the semis against Joe Amato. That'll be a drag race.
So Ormsby will now join Amato and Dick LaHaye in the semifinals. But action continues in round 2 as Shirley Muldowney is ready to face Darrell Gwynn.
Now, this is a brand new power plant between the frame rails of Darrell Gwynn's top fuel dragster. You'll recall I said in round number 1, they blew one up. They really did. Exploded the block into a bunch of pieces. So no one really has any idea how this engine is going to perform. They try to build them all identically, but that somehow just doesn't work out, does it, Paul? They always have their own personality. Darrell Gwynn, the quickest driver in all of drag racing, holds the national record of 5:20 from Miami, Florida. Shirley Muldowney, well, what can you say? A 3-time NHRA world champion and 4 Spring Nationals victories. This has got to be her favorite track. In fact, her major league career all started right here. Shirley using the canopy. You saw her pumping the handbrake there, getting the brake pressure up to hold this 3,000 horsepower automobile at the starting line. Neither driver particularly interested in staging first.
Darrell Gwynn gets a final handshake from Dad. He's set to go. Shirley Muldowney inches up as well, but both of them taking their time here in the second round. Just a little bit unusual, but both looking for a victory. Gwynn chose the far lane. Muldowney is in the lane that just created problems for Gene Snow. So a question about that left-hand lane.
That's right, Paul. This is a very tricky racetrack, and especially when it's this hot. The rubber on the starting line doesn't want to stay glued to the surface. It likes to ball up, almost like running in marbles, and that condition exists to some extent in the lane. Shirley Muldowney is now staged in. Shirley Muldowney smokes the tires. Darrell Gwynn is long gone. Lane choice paid big dividends of 548. At 252 miles per hour for Darrell Gwynn. Shirley Muldowney goes out in round 2.
Well, as we look back to the starting line, watch Shirley Muldowney's car nearest to you. Almost immediately, those tires begin to spin, and then the telltale smoke that says there is no longer any traction, and that left-hand lane continues to be a problem.
Well, Darrell, I've got to be honest about it. It looked to me and a lot of the fans here that maybe Shirley Muldowney had you on the ropes a little bit with that blown-up motor and not qualifying all that well, but your young crew came through for you.
Well, that's true, Steve, and there's a little story in itself here this weekend. We're trying a new motor combination, and we realize it's the Budweiser Spring Nationals. We want to try and do the best we possibly can, but we're trying to take a couple steps forward, and a lot of times when you take a couple steps forward, you got to go back sometimes. So we're actually backwards right now, and we're trying to make some steps forward, but we got a work cut out for us for next round for LaHaye.
Well, you just took a half a step forward with a 548.
Well, that's consistent. We ran 548 the last run with the other motor, so we just got to work on it a little bit.
Thanks, Darrell.
Thank you.
Shirley, smoke the tires leaving. What happened?
We just had a lot of horsepower in it, and we need to make a few changes, maybe in the wing department. But first thing they said to me when they drove up is, we're sorry. They don't have anything to be sorry about. They're still the best crew out there, and they still do a hell of a job for me.
Great. Thanks, Shirley.
Thank you, Paul.
And that terrific attitude tells me that Shirley Muldowney feels her crew learned some things this weekend. They could be dangerous in the future. While the fans are going to love the semifinals of Top Fuel, Darrell going against Dick LaHaye. LaHaye will have lane choice there. The other half of the semis, well, Gary Ormsby. He has lane choice due to his quicker ET in this round over Joe Amato. That's coming up.
Well, with Top Fuel complete, it's time for the thunder of the funny cars as they begin round 2 with Mark Oswald ready to face D.A. Santucci.
Mark Oswald, that beautiful red Thunderbird car at the far lane, is the defending champion here at this racetrack. Mark originally from Ohio, so a lot of his hometown friends are here. And this is D.A. Santucci. You saw him after that first round victory, how happy this guy was. From Glen Willard, Pennsylvania, Santucci is using kind of a pickup crew, just volunteers, nobody on the payroll. Well, not so on the Mark Oswald machine. Leonard Hughes, Paul Candies, they have a big budget operation here, and it paid off with the World Championship a couple of years ago. Now, Santucci did not have lane choice. That's why you see him closest to our camera.
And this near side lane, of course, has been problems twice already in Top Fuel. What will happen in Funny Car? Oswald wisely has chosen that far lane. He believes it has better traction, but Oswald lights the tires early on, and Santucci pours on the power. And Santucci takes the win, moving further ahead in Funny Car than he's ever been before with a 580, 253, and one very quick light. The question, though, is the other lane now, the far lane. Oswald chose that. It appeared to be a wise choice, but there you see the telltale smoke that says there is no traction over in the far lane now.
Well, you think this man was excited first round. Wait till I tell him that he ran a 580.
Oh, Steve, this is fantastic. I'd kiss you, Steve. Let me give some
I'll
thanks
pass
to my
on
guy.
that.
I got a Yellow Pages crew here, and they're just spastic about this, and I am too. I think we thought we hurt the motor, but here a hose come off. So we got a super lot of cleaning to do.
This has to be the most exciting day for you since about 1969 back at Indy.
Yes, that, and just a lot of help from a lot of people. And may I say, a phone call to Dale last night. That's really helped. Thanks, Steve.
Okay.
It's his backside.
I assume what he's saying there is that he picked up some wisdom on the telephone from Kenny Bernstein's crew chief, Dale Armstrong, to show you the camaraderie of these funny car racers. In the meantime, back in Joe Amato's pit, the crew working on his Top Fueler as he prepares to face Gary Ormsby in the semifinal round of Top Fuel. We'll be back with more right after this.
Downtown area of Columbus, Ohio. But about 30 miles east of this placid scene, things are anything but slow. I'm Steve Evans along with Paul Page. We're at National Trail Raceway for the Budweiser Spring Nationals drag races. And here is the crew for Darrell Gwynn, getting his Top Fuel dragster ready to meet Dick LaHaye in the semifinals. But first, there's more in second round funny car action. Up at the starting line, Tom Hoover versus Jim Head.
This man here in the far lane, Jim Head, definitely a hometown favorite as he will face Tom Hoover, who begins to back up now in the near lane. Second round action of Funny Car. Tom Hoover won the 79 Winter Nationals. It's been a long time since he's seen the victory lane. He faces Jim Head, and earlier Steve Evans looked at his new innovations.
Timing is everything in drag racing. There's elapsed time, there's reaction time, and in the case of engineer Jim Head's funny car, there's timers. Let me show you inside Jim's computer box. There they are, 10 relatively simple, inexpensive industrial timers. A little knob on each, they can time from 0 to 10 seconds. Now, one of those is connected to the lockup clutch so that it locks up a second and a half after the car leaves the starting line. Another is hooked to the transmission so that it shifts 4.5 seconds into the run. And others accomplish various aspects of the fuel system, things Jim no longer has to do from the cockpit so that he can concentrate on driving. All of these timers are activated when the throttle pedal is fully depressed and touches a little button, and the solenoids up front handle the actual functions of the timers. Now, there's a few other timers in the pits, but nobody's got 10 of them.
And if Jim gets them all right, he'll be able to just be a passenger, turn on the radio, and watch the scenery go by. For the moment, it's a matter of driving. That's Head in the far lane, Hoover in the near lane.
Be interesting to see who, if anybody, loses traction. It is Hoover in the near lane. Tom Hoover tried to stay with the car and started heading for the center line. He got off the pedal, and it's Jim Head with some rather ominous-looking engine smoke at the finish line of 592 at 242 miles per hour.
So while Jim Head will move forward in this round, the run was not particularly great for either driver. Ed McCulloch is now rolling out in his burnout as he is ready to face Billy Meyer. And the question is a matter of track surface. Neither lane appears to be particularly great, and the man that figures it out first is obviously going to move ahead.
They're not honking the horn.
Jim Head says they're not honking the horn. Well, your crew is not honking the horn because you didn't get lane choice. You ran in the 590s. But you've been so critical of this car, and here you go in the semifinals with it.
Well, I guess we're a little lucky, but it's running consistently, and hopefully, who do we have next round, you know? Hopefully they're not a whole lot faster. Yeah, I never watch a round ahead, but I think we've at least got the consistency back. We haven't got the ET, but we'll work on it.
And from what we've seen, lane choice doesn't, at this time, appear to be a big deal.
No, it's definitely a two-lane racetrack.
Thanks.
So Jim Head back to reset the timers and get ready to face D.A. Santucci in the semifinal round. But the battle at hand is McCulloch and Meyer.
Ed McCulloch races out of the Larry Minor Stables in San Jacinto, California. Has 8 NHRA national event wins to his credit. Did very well last season. Now he's up against Billy Meyer from Waco, Texas. Billy Meyer had to replace an engine between the first and the second round. So he's in a similar situation as Darrell Gwynn was in Top Fuel. He only hopes his will perform as well.
McCulloch on the far side, Meyer in the near lane. Both move up in stage. Both prepared for the quarter-mile challenge. This is the second round. Funny car elimination in the Budweiser SpringNationals.
A hole shot by Billy Meyer. Billy Meyer is off the mark first. McCulloch pulls even in the mid-range at the far end. Oh, boy. The electronic finish line judge calls it Billy Meyer, 586, 250 miles per hour, the race of the day in funny car.
One incredibly fast race. Now, McCulloch actually ran quicker with a 581, but let's watch it one more time. Billy Meyer pulls out ahead and is leading McCulloch right off of the line. Then as Meyer pulls on the power, he is able to keep ahead of McCulloch all the way. The real advantage, though, the hole shot that he pulled as McCulloch closed the distance at the finish line, actually ran the quarter mile faster, but in eliminations, it's who gets there first.
Well, that victory belongs to the driver, Billy Meyer. You ran a little bit slower, but you're going to the semis anyway.
I needed one after the Cajun Nationals. I was 800s late, if you remember.
Well, he was exactly 800s off the pace you just set on the starting line, and the car ran dry and looks like he got something to work with.
Yeah, we threw the rods out on the first one, so that was a brand new motor, so it's nice at least to get a full run in to see where to start. Thank you.
So Billy Meyer now will wait to see who he'll face in the semifinal round. D.A. Santucci will face Jim Head. And this is the final pairing of the second round of Funny Car, as Don Prudhomme will face the reigning world champion, Kenny Bernstein.
And Paul, Kenny Bernstein is the only funny car who has really figured out this racetrack. He ran a 5.69 in round number 1 to oust Johnny West. Bernstein, now racing out of Newport Beach, California, has won back-to-back NHRA World Championships. And that's something this man did 4 times some years back. Don the Snake Prudhomme, this is his first season back after a year's hiatus, the Pontiac car here in the near lane. And he is the only one to have beaten Bernstein this year. But Paul, look at the right bank on Kenny Bernstein's Buick-bodied automobile. That is big trouble. That's what the racers call death smoke.
So Dale Armstrong and his crew watching that machine, they know something is terribly wrong in Bernstein's car. Bernstein, the only one who really seemed to have a handle on the lanes here at National Trail Raceway.
And this is so rare to see Kenny Bernstein have any kind of mechanical problem, starting line or finish line. Dale Armstrong with the headset on there, checking over that right bank. And I believe the roof hatch is open now. I really doubt that Armstrong is going to let his good friend and employer, Kenny Bernstein, go down the race. They've shut it off. Kenny Bernstein sits idly while Don Prudhomme moves into the semifinals. Prudhomme now becomes the only man to beat Bernstein this year, and he has done it twice.
And Don Prudhomme still lays on the power. He's looking for lane choice, turning a 587, 246. As a most remarkable occurrence, Dale Armstrong and the crew picked the top up on Kenny Bernstein's car. A mechanical problem. Not common for the Bernstein stable.
No, it is not. And here's how they shape up for the semifinals. Californian Prudhomme versus Texan Meyer. Meyer has the lane choice. In the other half of the semis, it will be hometown favorite Jim Head up against the surprise from the east, Dominic Santucci.
And back in the pit area already, Jim Head goes to work on his machine as he moves forward, and hometown Columbus cheers for him. The Pro Stocks are coming up. Very hot day in Columbus at the Budweiser Spring Nationals. Back in the pit area, there's a lot of questions being asked now. Let's go to Steve Evans.
No one can remember the last time there was a serious problem with the engine in Kenny Bernstein's funny car, especially one serious enough to prevent the car from even staging. Dale Armstrong, crew chief, what caused all that smoke?
Well, Steve, an exhaust valve seat looks like that's what happened anyway. We're taking the head off now to see, but apparently an exhaust valve seat fell out of the head.
And shot right out of the header pipe?
Yeah, we're up there in the line, and it started smoking when he was backing up, and I really didn't know for sure what had happened, but when he came back there near the starting line, this valve seat came flying out of the pipe. So
what could have happened had you run the car in that condition?
Well, what happens with one of these things, when that shrapnel starts going around inside the motor, it'll pass from side to side under the blower. And if you try to run it, there's a real risk of those parts that are flying around in there getting under an intake valve seat. And if that happens, it'll blow the blower off or blow the body off. You know, you just can't run it when something like that happens.
No wind light is more important than the safety of that driver.
Oh, yeah. So it was never a thought of running it.
Thanks.
Okay.
Well, here's Kenny Bernstein. Kenny, here's a real good example of drag racing. Everything was so right, and then so quickly it's wrong.
Well, you know, Paul, it's been a great year at the start of this thing, and the Budweiser Quaker State Buick has been winning and having a good season. A mechanical thing comes up, there's nothing you can do about it. That's just part of the game. You're right.
What happened there on the line? What were you aware of as it was happening?
Well, the first thing was when I finished the dry burnout, the dry hop, the car went to a different pitch. It went high up on the idle. I first thought that the idle was stuck. I thought maybe it had hung on the injector a taste. But then I started watching blue smoke out the right pipe, and I kept seeing it get worse and worse and worse. As I backed up, I knew we had some mechanical problems going on. When I stopped, I whacked the throttle just a minute, just to make sure that I didn't have a stuck throttle, which I knew I didn't by then. And of course, Dale and Jeff observed, and Dale made the decision to shut it off. It had a bad exhaust valve in it, and that's it.
Well, we sure hate to see you pull out like that, but we look forward to you in the future.
Well, I appreciate it. There's 1,000,001 ways to lose in any motorsport, and drag racing's no exception.
Well, you've seen quite a few of them. Let's hope not too many more.
I hope not. Thank you, Paul.
Well, Kenny Bernstein still leaves Columbus with a sizable points advantage towards what could be a third NHRA World Championship. Well, now it's time for what the fans call the factory hot rod. Pro stock, and this is round 2 action. These are 2,350-pound automobiles, gasoline in the tank, 4-barrel carburetors. In the far lane, the maroon and silver Oldsmobile Forenza heating up the tires. That is Gary Brown, a husky young driver out of Buford, Georgia, and he ousted Darrell Alderman in round number 1. He will be up against here in round number 2, a fine driver from Ventura, California, in a Chevrolet Camaro. That is Jerry Ekman. Now, the Pro Stockers, when they stage, the RPMs come up over 8,000. They sidestep the clutch, and they're away. There's a fire under Gary Brown's car.
A flash of sparks under Brown's machine as Ekman comes across the line. Jerry Ekman with a 767, 181 miles an hour. The fire under Brown's car apparently out.
And, Paul, it looked more like sparks really than fire, and it happened the instant he let the clutch out. Both cars, as you can see, left right together. Brown totally unaware of any problem. He just stayed foot mashed right down on the pedal. Now, it may have been, let's take a head-on look. Now, watch the car on the left. As soon as the clutch is released, a shower of sparks out of the bell housing, possibly a clutch disc going away.
Jerry Brown, certainly not the run you wanted. They said you were throwing a lot of sparks at the line. What were your problems?
I really don't know what that could be. You know, that's first report I've had of that all weekend. We never had that problem in the past, so I don't really know what that could be.
As so often happens, the driver is the last to know. Well, there you're looking at the World Championship points leader and defending Spring Nationals Pro Stock champion. That is Butch Leal in his Trans Am. Originally from Northern California, Butch Leal now hails out of Blacklick, Ohio, and that's just a few miles from Columbus.
He faces Lee Dean from Northeast Maryland in his Trans Am. Dean has never won a Nationals event.
Now, these cars may not run 260, 270 miles per hour, but I believe, and a lot of people agree, they're among the toughest cars in all of drag racing to drive. Short wheelbase, the wheels are off the ground at the start, and it's a good start by both drivers. Butch Leal in the near lane, about a fender in front. He stretches that to a full car length, and the crowd loves it. The hometown boy, Butch Leal, 7.59 seconds.
Lee Dean almost coming around with a spin at the end of the run there. That's what Pro Stock Racing is all about, though. Tight, close competition. Now here's Bruce Allen and Kenny Delco.
Kenny Delco had a brilliant drive in round number 1. He hole-shotted his way past the always tough Don Coons to get to this point. Delco wheeling a Camaro out of New York State.
He will face Bruce Allen from Arlington, Texas, in another Chevrolet Camaro. Allen beat Warren Johnson to move into the second round.
And of course, Bruce Allen hoping to put Chevrolet back in the winner's circle. They did not win a single Pro Stock event all last season. They leave identically together. The same reaction time for both drivers. This is a race of raw power, and that belongs to the Rear Morrison team, as Bruce Allen is their first 763 to a very game 768 on the part of Kenny Delco.
Coming up next, 7-time world champion Bob Glidden versus Stan Mizell. Let's go to the far end now, as Steve is with Bruce Allen. Steve?
Well, Bruce, that was a race of sheer horsepower. No advantage to either driver, and you just out-muscled him, a 763 to a 68.
Yeah, we're starting to come around a little bit. We've been having a little bit of troubles, but just feel like if we could get down the track, we could make a good run. It's just one of those situations where you get up there and do the best you can and see what happens. And in that particular run, we were even almost all the way down the track, and I pulled her over in high gear, and the sheer power of the Rear Morrison car just drove away from him.
Indeed it did. See you in the semi.
Thank you.
So Bruce Allen waits to see who he will face in the semifinal round. In the meantime, back at the starting line, Stan Mizell sits ready.
Stan Mizell is from Gainesville, Florida, Paul, and he made a tremendous leap just 2 years ago from stock eliminator to pro stock and has surprised a lot of people. He beat Nick Nicholas in the first round. There is the smiling face of the Hoosier, Bob Glidden. Of course, Bob, Etta and his boys running the consummate pro stock race team. Glidden in the near lane. It's a Glidden away first. Bob Glidden with a nice advantage right off the mark, but look at Mizell. He's not throwing in the towel. It is Bob Glidden all the way and very quickly. 752, 185 miles an hour to Stan Mizell, 765. So among the 4 cars remaining in pro stock, Bob Glidden has the only non-General Motors product. And here's how they'll set up. It will be Glidden. He has lane choice over the Chevrolet Camaro of Bruce Allen. And it will be Butch Leal from right here in the Columbus area in his Trans Am up against the Camaro from California of Jerry Ekman.
So the semifinal rounds in pro stock are now set. They're also preparing in the funny car pits for the semifinals in funny car, as Don Perdome's crew works on his machine preparing to meet Billy Meyer. Coming up next, a very special competition.
Contrast in architecture. At National Trail Raceway, where we're running the Budweiser Spring Nationals drag races, we have an interesting contrast in competition. Paul Page?
You know, NHRA national events are always exciting, but especially so here at this event, the Spring Nationals, owing to a very special event held a little bit earlier. Special for the sportsman crews like the Austin brothers and their Top Alcohol Funny. The event, the TRW Sportsman All-Stars Shootout. Now, to get into this event, in your individual division, the 7 geographic divisions of the NHRA, you competed against other sportsmen scoring points. And then you and the previous champion all come here. Now there's a runoff in the 8 sportsman categories. And on the line, prestige for driver, crew, and your geographic division, and a $50,000 purse.
And Paul, let's take a look at the final rounds as they occurred earlier today. First up was the Super Street Division. Now, this is designed for basically street-legal type automobiles. The final saw a pair of Craigs. Craig Miller in the near lane, Craig Porter in the far lane. Now, in Super Street, there's a performance limitation. The drivers cannot run quicker than 10.9 seconds. And at the finish line, it was Craig Miller in the blue car at 11.08 seconds to his opponent's 11.06. So off the starting line, Miller was quicker than his opponent, and that got him the victory in Super Street.
Super Street, a real driver's class. Craig Miller, 2 years in a row.
Yep. Tell you what, it's real exciting to win. I tell you, especially since you can do it 2 years in a row.
And you pulled him off the line.
Did I? Oh, man. It's unbelievable. I just have to thank TRW, TCI, and NHRA for putting on this race for our sportsman racers.
Congratulations.
What can you say? Thank you.
Next up was the final in Super Gas. The performance limitation here, 9.9 seconds.
And in this race, we saw Chuck Buckshorn in the near lane versus Mike Ferderer over in the far lane. Ferderer, a former world champion from the Northwest, Buckshorn representing the Midwest, and Ferderer came off the line a lot faster, got a good hole shot, but then it was power and speed as Buckshorn poured it on, and Buckshorn came across the line with a 994, 126 miles an hour to take the win.
Well, anybody will tell you that super gas is probably the toughest eliminator for a driver. And Chuck Buckshorn, you've done it. You've won the TRW All-Star.
I'm elated. I didn't think I could do it.
You know, normally you need the better reaction time. Actually, you gave away 100 to Mike.
Really?
Yeah.
I thought maybe I did when I left the starting line, but I wasn't sure.
And you play with the brakes a little bit and the throttle at the far end?
Just a little bit. Just enough. What did I go?
994 to his 997.
Love it.
Okay. Congratulations
Thanks,
again.
Steve.
Then came Super Comp. Edmund Richardson versus Jerry Thomas.
Now, these cars, custom built for drag racing. As you can see, the performance limitation here was 8.9 seconds. In the near lane, the little dragster powered by a Chevrolet engine of Jerry Thomas. In the far lane from Fort Worth, Texas, Edmund Richardson. And a big hole shot went to Edmund Richardson. Jerry Thomas, a little bit of sleep off the line, not a good glide at all. And that gave the car in the far lane, Edmund Richardson, just the cushion he needed to win it. At 8.99 to Thomas's much quicker, 8.91.
Well, here's Edmund Richardson, another winner, and that was a tight little run, too.
Yes, it was. Sure was. I think we left. I think I had a little bit better light, so I think I pulled it off barely.
The sportsman run really means a great deal, doesn't it?
Yeah, it sure does. It feels real good. Real good. That's what leads to running the big stuff.
All right, congratulations.
Thank you.
Next up was Stock Eliminator. A little different situation. An index is established for each class in Stock Eliminator, and then the Christmas tree starting system provides the handicap for the car representing the slower class.
Alan Peters in the far lane leaves first, and then Gary Long gets his green light. Now, neither car can run faster than their own established index for their class. In this case, Alan Peters holds on to the lead given him and comes home the winner with a 12.78, 104 miles an hour. Alan Peters, the winner in stock.
Stock Eliminator cars in NHRA drag racing are the closest things you'll find to the hot rods that a lot of us drive on the street. And this beautiful Camaro of Alan Peters is so typical. But one way it's not typical. The third year in a row you've won this TRW race.
It's a tough race. It really is. Everybody goes all out for this race because this is all the division leaders from all over the country, and they show up here, and TRW just really does a great job sponsoring this race. And
why does one man named Alan Peters rule Stock Eliminator?
Well, I don't know about ruling. I try to just do the best I can and try to be as consistent and steady. But there's plenty of good guys out there, especially like Gary Long is a great driver, you know, top notch.
A great reaction time, too. Congratulations.
Thank you very much.
Then came Super Stock. The cars with a little more height than the stock category, but the same indexing rules. In this round, we saw Robert Richardson face Delmer Wood.
Robert Richardson in the near lane got a huge handicap advantage on the Christmas tree, and he was closer to his green light than Delmer Wood was. So Robert Richardson, with 9/100ths of a second right off the starting line, was never seriously threatened in the final of Super Stock. The win went to Richardson at 10.89, 109 miles per hour. Super Stock, a very competitive class.
Super Stock, another one of the real drivers class here in the sportsman categories, and the defending champion goes down to this man, Robert Richardson. You cut a real good light.
Thank you, sir.
Tell me about the run.
Well, I think it was a good run. Well, like before then, I had a 504, and I don't know what I had on that.
Not intimidating to look over and see the champ there.
That's right.
Well, you're the champ now.
I know that, too.
Congratulations.
Thank you, sir.
Next up was the final in Competition Eliminator. It pitted a pair of former world champions. In the dragster car from California, that is Bill Meropoulos. He was up against, from Texas, David Nickens in the stock-bodied Oldsmobile in the far lane. The advantages, you might imagine, went to the car in the far lane.
Interesting comparison of machinery here. Seemingly an uneven match, but you can see it comes out even in the far lane. That is Nickens, and he got the start early and all the way to the finish line. David Nickens coming home with the win in Competition Eliminator.
Judging by the celebration on the starting line, David Nickens can expect to have a very happy crew when they get down here. This Olds Forenza has won it, beating the defending champion. David, congratulations.
Thank you very much. We're just tickled to death to win this race. The guys did a heck of a job. We changed motors for the finals. We thought we needed a little performance advantage because Bill won the race last year, and he's been real tough, and I think it worked out for us.
You know, why do you think we saw so many drivers who were in the finals a year ago back again when you consider there's thousands of racers in this program?
Well, this is truly the TRW All-Stars, and these guys are All-Stars when they come here. And Bill's a real tough performer, and he was here, and another couple of guys won it, and that's what these guys are All-Stars here, really.
Well, you burned him on the Christmas tree. He told me that.
Well, we've been doing a good job all day long, and this was our race. We wasn't going to give it to nobody.
Indeed not. Thank you.
You sure can tell the sportsman run very important to these competitors. In alcohol funny car, it's head-to-head racing. In the far lane, Don Gay Jr. faces Pat Austin.
Don Gay Jr., just 16 years of age, and what poise he showed in the final round. They left right together. Pat Austin, who has been the terror of the alcohol funny car class, got there by an eyelash. In the near lane, winning it was Pat Austin at 6:49, 213 miles per hour, alcohol funny car champion.
The A Funny car and some of the biggest engines in drag racing, and here's your sportsman champion for the A Funnies, Pat Austin, with one super race.
Thanks, it was great. To win this shootout, we went through the best cars in the country, and I'm just so happy.
A 6:49, your run to a 6:51.
What a race. I mean, been battling Don, all year, and to go through Manzo and Anderson at the same race, I mean, this is half the race. We got another race tomorrow, and we're going to do the best we can. I'm real happy. Thank you very much.
Well, you can see this is hard work. I don't think that young man breathed for about 2 minutes there through the burnout. Then it was time for the fastest sportsman cars of them all, the alcohol dragsters. It was Dennis Lucas in the near lane and Bill Walsh, many-time world champion, on the far side.
Two very tough competitors facing one another. This was the final round of eliminations in alcohol dragster in the sportsman shootout. Lucas got the whole shot on the near lane, but then Walsh pouring on the power with a 6:56, 204 miles an hour, came home the winner. Bill Walsh wins in alcohol dragster.
Well, I don't have to tell anyone how happy the sponsor of this event will be with this particular winner and top alcohol dragster, Bill Walsh, the three-time world champion. You were off your game a little bit in qualifying.
Yes, we think we found the problem. We're still not up to par yet. But we're trying, we keep on sneaking up on it. I don't know what I ran that time.
I can tell you, a 6:56, put away the number one qualifier.
What did he run?
No, he ran 6:70s.
Did he? Mm-hmm. Well, we're lucky. But I'm glad for TRW and Joe Amato and the rest of the crew. They really did a super job for me.
And all the sportsmen did a super job today. Some exciting close racing.
Oh, definitely. It's all close racing. And this is real competition here.
Well, there's a check waiting for you for $4,000. Congratulations.
Great. Thank you.
A great entertainment for the fans and great racing for the competitors in the third annual TRW Sportsman All-Stars. As we take a look at the winners, it was also very important for regional titles. Indeed, Paul, in the winning team, NHRA Division number 4, the Southwestern United States, Texas, Oklahoma, Louisiana, and around that area. Congratulations to that team and all of the individual champions in the third annual TRW All-Stars. Well, speaking of All-Stars, here's Darrell Gwynn, the quickest driver in the history of drag racing, awaiting his semifinal bout against Dick LaHaye. Stay with us. Back in Columbus, Ohio, along with 41,000 other drag racing fans for the Budweiser Spring Nationals. We're ready for the semifinal round in Top Fuel. And Darrell Gwynn rolls out to face Dick LaHaye. Now remember, Gwen got here as a result of facing Shirley Muldowney. And so Gwen is ready to roll as he begins the process toward this run. The first burnout as Gwen prepares that machine. His competitor is Dick LaHaye. LaHaye, the fastest qualifier in this Top Fuel field with a 5.40. There have been 4 winners in NHRA drag racing this season, and 2 of them are on the line right now. Earlier, Steve Evans took a look at this magnificent machine.
A Top Fuel dragster is a lot more than just an engine and 4 wheels. The chassis can be an important part of its performance. Dick and Kim LaHaye and their crew have been nice enough to strip the magnesium body off of their car so that we can take a close-up look. Now, this is the lightest car in Top Fuel at 1,820 pounds with Dick on board. It was built by Dave Uehara in Northern California. Now, up front, you'll find a lot of the dragsters use just a straight axle welded right to the chassis. Well, Dick likes to use an A-arm style suspension. He feels he's got better control of the car when it's out of shape. Now, all of the tubing in the car is what they call chrome moly, and there's 4 different thicknesses involved. Were you to stretch this tubing end to end, it would be the length of a football field. And here's something that's kind of interesting. The shaft that goes down to the rack and pinion steering runs directly through the center of the 14-gallon fuel tank. Now, they were having problems with their earlier car braking under acceleration right here where this crosspiece is. Well, now the crosspiece is not welded. It is slip jointed so that the tubes can flex and twist within these particular joints. Now, you will not find any diagonal pieces in the chassis whatsoever until you get back to the cockpit area, and that's required by NHRA for safety. Now, if you watch this car closely, when it leaves the starting line, you'll see that it bows just about here at Dick's feet, actually raises up as much as 5 inches. That allows for weight transfer, for better traction, and also allows the front wheels to stay closer to the pavement so that Dick can steer the car. Now, every nut and bolt on this machine is either magnesium or titanium, and you would think that a throbbing 3,000 horsepower engine would be bolted securely into the car, right? Wrong. It actually just rests on the frame rails. It's held in place only by clamps like you might find on a radiator hose, except for back here. You'll find a couple of very sturdy braces, and this keeps the engine from sliding forward when the parachute is deployed or sliding back when Dick leaves the starting line.
They appear so simple, but obviously so very complex. The top fuel dragster.
And Paul, Dick LaHaye runs a much smaller engine, only about 480 cubic inches as compared to 500 for this car, Darrell Gwynn's. Now here on this track, as we've seen, power may not be the answer. In fact, if you were down on power and had the clutch set just right and unleashed the power correctly, you might have a better chance. So let's watch. They're off the line right together, and Darrell Gwynn, as so many have in this near lane, smokes the tires. Dick LaHaye astounds even his own crew. Another new track record. 5.37 seconds, 260 miles per hour. Incredible in this heat and humidity.
So Dick LaHaye moves ahead with his 5:37, and that will bring up the second matchup in the semifinals. Joe Amato will face Gary Ormsby. So Gary Ormsby is ready. And back at the line, here's the 1984 world champion, Joe Amato. And while they back up, let's go to the far end and Steve.
Well, the Glidden boys aren't the only family that can high-five on the starting line. Your son and your daughter just did that when they saw a new record on the scoreboard.
Again?
Again.
What'd they run?
37.
Oh, my God. Thank the Lord. I'll tell you what. What a summer. I mean, what a whole year.
So Dick LaHaye is into the final round, and now we wait to see whether or not Joe Amato or Gary Ormsby will move to the finals. Amato sits ready. Ormsby in the far lane.
Amato has been in every final round this year. Even though there's been no repeat champions, he leads the points for that very reason. So Dick LaHaye, nothing personal, hopes that Gary Ormsby puts away Joe Amato right now. That would help him, and that may happen. Joe Amato in this unpredictable near lane, and now there's a fire to boot. So apparently the motor overwound and all of that freewheeling, and Joe Amato is on the trailer. Gary Ormsby, 562 at 52 miles per hour, will go to the final round.
Amato read the tree just a little bit better, but then the tires went up in smoke, followed by a billow of flame. Now we look at it one more time. Watch at the back of Amato's car. What's happened there is oil has misted into the air, and when that occurs, it becomes very volatile, apparently leaking out through the valve cover. It lights up, but it's not an explosion. He gives a hug to his wife, Jerry, and Joe Amato walks away, the first time that he's not moved to the finals.
No, Gary, I'm not bragging, but I told our fans at home earlier they better look out for Gary Ormsby. Dick LaHaye and Joe Amato, a nice one into the final round.
Oh, I love it. It's been a long time, Steve. We're really pleased. I think it smoked tires a little bit there, but if we got here first, that's what counts.
Well, it smoked the tires enough to slow you down to about a 560.
Yeah, I knew it was loose for quite a while there. And
Joe was having a regular bonfire alongside you.
Yeah, I knew he dropped off. I didn't see him after it. I was having a little trouble myself with the tires, but I never saw him after that. I figured something happened.
Do you dare change anything to this car? Maybe hope the track gets a little better, it cools off?
Well, we actually changed it a little bit thin, and I think that's why it blew the tires off.
Go back to what you had?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay. Should be a great final.
And it's obvious that they're still having trouble determining which lane will be right and how to set up for it. The final round in Top Fuel, Gary Ormsby will face Dick LaHaye, and LaHaye will have lane choice. But coming up, the funny cars back in Billy Meyer's pit. They're working on that machine as he is prepared to meet the snake, Don Prudhomme. It's the funny cars semifinal coming up next.
Another interesting scene in downtown Columbus, Ohio is the old Ohio State Arsenal. But even in its finest day, I doubt that that brick building housed more firepower than we're seeing today at National Trail Raceway. Now here, getting ready for the final and top fuel, Gary Ormsby's crew. The wing is coming off the car, apparently so that they can get to the rear end, Paul Page. That could be a story. We'll check on that a little bit later. Right now, it's time for the semifinals of Funny Car, and in some ways, an unlikely pair. We've already told you the story of D.A. Santucci, match racer turned big-time pro here today, and in the near lane, Jim Head from the local area, who admitted himself that he has been struggling all along and has had a lot of luck riding with him.
Really a Cinderella story on the line here now. Local driver Jim Head, D.A. Santucci, who has never been this far in funny car eliminations. Santucci brings the machine up to the line ever so carefully. He knows a great reputation lies at stake here. In the near lane, Jim Head, earlier Steve Evans pointed out all those timers on board to give him what he hopes will be an extra advantage.
Jim Head inside the car, rattling around in that steel cocoon of a roll cage, fiberglass body atop a tube chassis. They leave right together. D.A. Santucci and Jim Head. What a drag race. That's Head in the near lane, Santucci's far lane, and the win light, it is for Jim Head. 584, 246 miles per hour. And Paul Page, that was definitely worth another look.
But Steve, some concern back at the starting line, a red light burns. And the question is, was there truly a red light? Now, it appeared to me that there was a flash of green in Santucci's lane before the red. Going to the finish line, it was still Santucci, but then Head came on strong and got him with inches to spare. Head with a 584 as the win.
You didn't lose it all today. You proved to everyone you're a winner.
It was successful. It was a wonderful outing, and this is just great. Especially here to talk to you. We always see it on TV, so now it's my turn.
Come back and see us, will you?
You got it, Steve.
Okay. D.A. Santucci, what a thrill his whole crew got this weekend.
The equipment has been checked. It was not a foul. That red light was displayed accidentally. So Jim Head, the winner of that run. And now, Don Prudhomme will face this man, Billy Meyer.
Billy Meyer went through a terrible siege of exploding superchargers. Very dangerous and very expensive. But Meyer has his own racetrack down in Texas Motorplex. He's been testing a lot and has cured that problem, he hoped. And Don Prudhomme has had a couple of those supercharger explosions also. But the Snake running good this weekend, and he has one victory to his credit this year. That was the Gator Nationals when he beat Kenny Bernstein, who almost got into the wall. But there is Billy Meyer taking one final tug on those shoulder belts, Paul. Everybody wants to be strapped in, even if it's a little painful.
Don Prudhomme, the near lane, remember he got here when Kenny Bernstein's machine failed on the line. In the far lane, that is Billy Meyer. Both long-time veteran drag racers, both really know the track, and it's going to take that knowledge to win here today at National Trail Raceway. This track has been very unpredictable.
But these are two pure drivers. Billy Meyer may be the very best in funny car racing at pedaling the car. In other words, just feeling those rear tires, getting off the throttle, applying only as much power as the track will take. Let's see. They're off together. Don Prudhomme is snake bit in the near lane, but Prudhomme smokes the tires like days of old. Billy Meyer, however, takes the win at 581, 249 miles per hour, and will make his first final round appearance in a long, long time.
The Snake tried to get the power under him, actually tried it twice, couldn't get it done. Billy Meyer takes the win. He will have the lane choice in the final round over Jim Head. And coming up next, it's the Pro Stockers. As world champion Bob Glidden relaxes with his fans. More drag racing action coming up.
Back at National Trail Raceway in Columbus, Ohio, the Budweiser Spring Nationals drag races. I'm Steve Evans along with Paul Page, and we're about to determine the finalist in Pro Stock Eliminator. We've already done that in Top Fuel and Funny Car. Now it's the Pro Stock's turn, and here is Butch Leal. Can he make it 2 in a row, Paul, in front of his hometown fans?
It would be a tremendous victory if he can get that done. Butch Leal in the near lane. He faces Jerry Eckman.
Eckman and his car owner Bill Orndorff from Ventura, California, have gone into a very serious engine development program, and it has already paid dividends. They're running about 12 hundredths of a second quicker than they did last season. And Pro Stock guys, they pay $50,000 for 12 hundredths. That's the difference between winning and losing. Now let's see, Paul, what happens on the starting line. Jerry Eckman is just about as good as Butch Leal as far as striking off that line.
Two drivers very closely paired. Both of them roll up now. Leal in the near lane, Eckman over in the far lane. There you watch as Eckman inches up into the staging lights now. He's prepared to go. Butch Leal. He's ready as well. This is the semifinal round of Pro Stock.
And it's an all General Motors affair. Trans Am in the near lane. Far lane, it's a Chevrolet Camaro for Ekman. They lead right together. Jerry Ekman matches Butch Leal's reaction time, and that's something not many can do. At the finish line, it is Butch Leal by about half a fender. For the second year in a row, Butch Leal will go into the final round at 7:59, 183 miles per hour to Jerry Ekman 765.
Back at the starting line, in fact, Ekman cut a better light than Butch Leal. In fact, Ekman at 8,000ths of a second faster. But then Leal, coming to the finish line, poured on the high speed, had the car better balanced, and came home the winner with a 7:59, 183.
For the second year in a row. Sounds good, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does.
Butch Leal goes into the final round. And Butch, I noticed you don't even have a tachometer in this car.
Well, Steve, I've been racing since 1960 and never had one. And at times, people at companies that we race for with an Autometer, which is our company, said, why don't we just put something in there? And I said, you know, if you pick it up and it falls, it's going to hit me. In a race car, it weighs 5 pounds. So I don't run one, and I like to feel it. If you can feel it, I think, like golf, if you can feel the putt, you got to feel the car, you feel the motor. I think it's an advantage. Like today, I've ran 3 59s in a row.
You just ran another one. How would you relate that to golf?
Well, it's the same. It's just like you got a good putting stroke and they're going to fall in, you know. So it's like watching Steve Ballesteros make putts, you know. It's excellent.
Well, you just sunk this one. Dead solid perfect. Butch Leal, final round.
Butch Leal has that feeling as he readies himself now for the final round, which will be against the outcome of this match between Bob Glidden in the near lane and Bruce Allen.
Ford versus Chevrolet. The leading Chevrolet in the country, Bruce Allen, and the top Ford on this planet, Bob Glidden, the 7-time NHRA world champion. Now, Butch Leal, he's down there saying, please, Bruce, would you put away that Thunderbird? Because Bob Glidden is just behind Butch in the points. Now, Butch has that points lead mainly because he's made every final round. Hasn't won them all, but he's been in the finals 4 times this season in 4 races.
The Ford of Bob Glidden from Whiteland, Indiana. This man has given many a pro stocker nightmares. 7 times the world champion. He is ready now in the semifinal pairing to face Bruce Allen. Can Allen do it? Can he get past Bob Glidden, who wins so consistently?
All right, the delicate staging process begins. Sometimes they'll play a little psychological game here. They'll put on that top pre-stage and both just sit there for a while, feeling each other out. That's starting to go on right now here. The starter doesn't seem concerned at all, but they're taking a long time to stage. And let's see who is going to break first and move up into that final beam on the starting line. It is Bob Glidden finally moving in. Bruce Allen won the war of nerves right there, and he's still letting Glidden sit a bit. The tree, and it is Glidden away first. Glidden did not succumb to that starting line battle at all. Bob Glidden, he defeats Bruce Allen with daylight. And the Glidden sons enjoying this one. We will have an incredible final round. Bob Glidden and Butch Leal. They have been bashing on each other all year long.
Tough to play the psych game with a long-time veteran like Bob Glidden. So Bob Glidden will face Butch Leal in the final round of Pro Stock. And Glidden will have his choice of lanes as final round action is coming up next.
The Ohio Village, a recreation of a typical Midwestern village around the mid-1800s. Well, at National Trail Raceway, it's time for the final rounds in all 3 professional categories here at the Budweiser Spring Nationals. And Paul Page, we're going to kick it off with Pro Stock.
Back to the future now, the final round, and Bob Glidden has decided it is the near lane that will be best. He's pushed Butch Leal to the far lane as Glidden faces Leal in the final round.
It's interesting that these Pro Stock cars, Paul, have different traction requirements. A lane that may not work for a dragster or a funny car is just fine for a Pro Stock. And nobody more track savvy than Bob Glidden. He didn't come over here by accident. And no one better on the lights than Butch Leal. Even Glidden will tell you that. He says, boy, he beats up on me all the time. So it's Leal, and he'll be gunning for the whole shot. He's a little off in performance as compared to the red and white Thunderbird. So, all eyes right now on the front wheels of these cars as they move into the beam. It is Leal ahead first. Leal with 300ths of a second in a whole shot. Here comes the big Ford, and he muscles by a full car length victory. Bob Glidden has again won the NHRA Budweiser Spring Nationals at 750. Butch Leal at 763, but a game effort.
We talked about at the beginning of the show the ability to tune these cars for the track using suspension as well as clutch and engine. Butch Leal came off the line just a fraction first, but Bob Glidden just laid it right on down. He had figured out the lane, figured out the way to get the power down to the track. Bob Glidden wins with a 750-185.
Bob Glidden sheds the fireproof jacket. You've won it. You know, this one had your name all over it all day. You were just running consistently quicker than anybody else.
You know, Steve, I thought that too, and Butch came up to me just before we got ready to run, and he said, you see that bike, Bob? He said, I'm going to ride off with it. You know, the fine people from Suzuki are giving the bike to the Pro Stock winner, and I said, oh my gosh, out of all the years we've raced for a Suzuki motorbike, I've never won one of these races. So he was trying to put the jinx on me, I think, and finally we wore it off. So, you know, we need to thank the fans that come and support us and the people from Ford and Motorcraft for carrying us through this race.
Well said, and Canetta right on the back.
Oh, absolutely. Thanks, Steve.
You bet. Thank you. Bob Glidden just dominated today.
While Bob Glidden wins here, Butch Leal continues the points lead. And back at the starting line, it's the funny cars. They're ready for their final round. Jim Head begins to roll up to the line. It will be Jim Head facing Billy Meyer.
Now, Jim Head won on the circuit last year, the Quaker State North Star Nationals up in Brainerd, Minnesota. Billy Meyer, this is hard to believe for a pro of his quality, has not been in the winner's circle in 3 years of competition.
So that's Jim Head pulling back in the near lane. Billy Meyer with the escape hatch open, sitting in the far lane. Again on the last round, the choice of lanes came to the near lane. Bob Glidden thought that the near lane was faster. Billy Meyer then sits in a lane that Bob Glidden didn't think was right.
Yeah, well, Bob Glidden's got about 1,100 horsepower. Billy Meyer's got, well, we estimate 3,000 horsepower. There's no dyno strong enough to measure it. So, as I said before, they just have different traction requirements. Now, Meyer is one of the very best at getting a car down a slippery racetrack. Jim Head, as we showed you earlier, has so many decisions left up to timers. Billy Meyer would not use timers like that, Paul. He will lock up the clutch where he feels it's just right. He'll shift the car where he feels it's just right.
It makes you wonder if those timers won't work to Jim Head's disadvantage here, where you really have to feel the track.
Oh, yeah, a lot of people are saying that, but of course Jim Head is in the final round, and they're not.
Well, this is the moment that will make the determination of the winner in funny car of the Spring Nationals. That's Jim Head as he inches forward ready. In the far lane, Billy Meyer, that bright yellow machine, as he begins to pull forward now.
Billy Meyer, the 3 in the window indicating he was number 3 in world points last year. The year before that, he went right down a tussle for the world championship to the final race. But here he's looking for his first victory in 3 years. Jim Head, of course, his car based right here in Columbus, Ohio. His family, friends, all in this grandstand. A very partisan crowd for the car on the near lane. They're pre-staged. The top yellow lights are on. Head moves in first. Meyer inching in, not holding him up, just being very careful. Lets he use away first. It is Billy Meyer by an eyelash. Meyer is sideways. Meyer darts towards the center line. Does a brilliant job of driving. Billy Meyer's crew finally tastes victory after 36 months. Meyer at a 584, 251 miles per hour. What a pure driver that young man from Texas is.
His crew has waited a long time, and they couldn't be happier. Now, as we look again, it's Billy Meyer that launches off the line first. Again, a red light, but that's a malfunction in the tree. It does not affect the race. At the halfway point, Billy Meyer begins to pull ahead of Jim Head, collecting the car under him as it tries to get away. And Billy Meyer comes home the winner.
So a long, hot day has come to an end for Billy Meyer, but he's not thinking about that right now. Your 11th NHRA national title. Been a long time since the 10th, though.
Yeah, I think some of my guys will be, even though we've been in the final round every year, it'll be 3 years, which is hard for us to believe, next week. So I'm glad it didn't go to 3 years. I can keep it in the 2-year range.
584 elapsed time. It wanted to smoke the tires there for a second.
I did the same thing it did last round, except this time I went to the center line. I thought maybe I got near it. And I saw him the whole time. He must have been real close. I don't know what happened at the other end, but to half track, I saw him right out of the corner of my eye.
Mm-hmm. When you see them, they're dangerous.
Yeah, you don't ever want to see anybody, and I'm just glad for my guys. It's been 2 years with them.
Congratulations again for all of you. Billy Meyer, Spring Nationals champion.
There's one race left. top fuel. And Dick LaHaye looks on as his crew buttons up his top fueler as he's ready to face Gary Ormsby. Coming up next.
Maybe no more dedicated race fans than those who follow NHRA championship drag races. Temperature in the 90s, humidity to match, and not one car is leaving this parking lot as we are ready for the final round in top fuel eliminator of the Budweiser Spring Nationals. Gary Ormsby, only the second outing for that new lightweight car, and he blazes the tires to get those huge rear slicks good and gummy, and also to put some heat in the racetrack. Here is Dick LaHaye, who has totally dominated this day, setting track records round after round. But before bringing their car to the staging lanes, the Ormsby crew made a change they hope will help them defeat Dick LaHaye. I was there. Quote Lee Beard, the crew chief on this Gary Ormsby car, "We are going to give Dick LaHaye a race. They're not going to do it by taking power out of the car to not smoke the tires. It's going to slow up. They're not going to do it by making more power. It's just going to smoke the tires harder. What they are going to do is to replace the entire rear end assembly. The assembly that goes back in this car will have a higher gear and hopefully will not smoke the tires with the same available power. That's the plan here."
That taller gear will use less torque and hopefully give them higher speed at the far end.
That's right. It's like your passenger car on a slick street. If you take off in second gear, it probably won't spin the tires. In low gear, you'll slip and slide around. So that's what's happening here. Dick LaHaye has to have the most efficient running engine under these kinds of conditions. I said before, it's a smaller motor than most of the competition is using, but he never seems to burn it up. His daughter and his son, the only crew he has, and they're off together, but Ormsby's taller gear does not stop the tire smoking problem. The LaHaye crew celebrates their second straight NHRA victory.
Dick LaHaye with a 5:35, 260 mile an hour. He came off the line first, pulling the front wheels up in the air, almost completely off the ground. You can see Ormsby's trying with the power, but that telltale blue smoke that says the traction was gone.
What a perfect way to cap a honeymoon for Dick and Claudia LaHaye. Married 1 week ago, a new track record. Most importantly, the title is yours at 5:35.
Thank you very much, Steve. I just thank the Lord. I mean, can you believe this whole weekend? It's just been unbelievable. And I really want to take this opportunity to thank Anheuser-Busch for putting the money up and supporting this race so that the Miller American car could win it.
Indeed, without the sponsors, these races would not be worth as much as they are for you to win. Tell me about the run itself. Ormsby was strong.
Did he run good? I never seen him. It left well. It left the best it's left all weekend.
Apparently.
And I guess so. He showed up in the elapsed time. And it was a nice, smooth run down through there. I felt it turning the tires in the middle of the racetrack, and I thought, oh, please hang on there. And it did.
Again, congratulations to all of you.
Thank you very much.
So it's been a great day at National Trail Raceway in Columbus, Ohio, as we salute the winners in the pro categories here. Congratulations to Dick LaHaye, Billy Meyer, and Bob Glidden. This is Paul Page for Steve Evans. So long from Columbus.
The executive producer for American Sports Cavalcade is Harvey M. Palish. Produced and directed by John B. Mullen. Promotional consideration provided for and a fee paid by the Style Auto World Championship Team, the nation's premier source of fast...